Give you a wink?
When you're like...
You love it when I give you a wink. So, Kelly, what have you dragged me down on my day off for today?
I haven't dragged you down.
Well, you've dragged me down for this conversation. So
it's a collaborative idea.
What should we talk about today then?
So I thought we'd talk about dancing and mental health.
Very important.
Yeah.
Something that's neglected.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, mental health is something that lots of people have been talking about for a long time, haven't they? Well, not a long time, but recently it's been a big subject. But I think in our world of dance, it is really neglected still. It's something that's not talked about enough.
Well, I think the problem is not enough people know enough about it, do they?
Well, I think a lot of people are getting familiar with it, but I think people like dance teachers, people within our competitive world, perhaps are not putting enough emphasis on it yet. Not to say that they won't, it's just that it's new, I think, isn't it? And now that people are aware of it, I think it's going to start to become more prominent. Do you not?
Absolutely. It's something that's definitely becoming more aware. People are realising it's an issue these days, aren't they? Some people use it as an excuse as well, unfortunately. I think that can be...
Yeah, but that all still comes under that banner of mental health, isn't it? And is it good or is it in a not such good state? And I think a lot of dancers, whether they be competitors or not, perhaps have something. It doesn't mean that everybody's, struggling, but there's probably something we can all work on and have help with. And I think that's something that's... could be highlighted. Well, not highlighted. Highlighted is the wrong word. It's kind of like saying, "Oh, let's all put our hands up and say we're all mental." But that's not what I'm saying. It's just like it's normal. It's normal for us to have those bad days and to be struggling a little bit. And obviously, for a lot of people who start dancing later in life, like a lot of social dancers that we know, perhaps start dancing to help with that.
Yeah, well, dancing is quite cathartic, isn't it? So it's something that people do to get away and escape
for sure.
from the everyday life or the things that they've been through.
Stress.
Most people that we encounter have had to deal with something or another, and dancing is a great way for them to escape. Isn't it?
Yeah. I think what I've noticed, and this is most recently, is that people will come to dancing because for lots of different reasons, but a big one is what we're talking about, to help them escape so they can meet new people, have some fun, socialise, because people are missing connection with others, aren't they?
They are.
Because we spend so much time on phones and in front of TVs and stuff like that. But I think what's been highlighted to me is, as good as that is for you, it's also not enough. It's not enough just to come, say, to a dance class once a week to feel better. Ultimately, if there's a problem there that you're struggling with, you've got to get to the root of it. The dancing will help, like put a Band-Aid on it. And that's what I notice, is that it does help for a while, but then people go back to their lives and their everyday tasks, and then they go through all that struggle again. Well,
it doesn't. If you only deal with the symptoms, the cause of all the problems. If you don't fix the cause, of course, they're going to come back, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you've only really recently dealt with your causes.
And mine go back right to childhood, for sure. For sure. Because for me, it was all anxiety, massive amounts of anxiety. And because obviously when I was a child, again, nobody really talked about anxiety or depression or anything like that. Nobody really understood it. So I just learnt to deal with it in my own way. And what I realise now is that I learnt how to pretend that I was okay. All the time. So every time I'd come in to teach, every time we'd do some sort of practice, or I was deep down struggling, but I'd learnt to say, I'm all right. And
obviously when we were competing, that manifested itself with people thinking that you didn't care enough or weren't bothered.
People assumed I either didn't want to be there, or I didn't want to work hard enough and things like that. And actually it wasn't that. It was that I was scared. I was scared. I was too worried about what other people thought of me. I didn't think I was worthy. There was all sorts of reasons why I perhaps didn't put myself out there enough, and come across as if I was this outgoing, comfortable dancer, because everyone assumes dancers are pretty confident. And actually, that's not the case. Like I say, we're very good at putting on a mask.
It's acting, isn't it, to a degree? What we do is acting. We go out there and put on a performance that isn't necessarily really who we are or what we are.
No, and I think I became the master of pretend.
Well, I knew about it, of course, but it's difficult for me because in the last couple of years, I've struggled, as you well know, with what's going on in the world. But prior to that, I've always been pretty positive. So my attitude to it was, what do you think you're doing? Pull yourself together, get out there and dance. And let's get on with it.
I was thinking about that actually, because I think being mentally strong has been prevalent in dancing because we're all, particularly from our point of view and other dancers out there who compete, you make that decision, don't you? Think, well, I've got to be mentally strong for this. So I think that's been quite important for a lot of competitors, hasn't it? They learn to do that, but
again,
that
because
doesn't
it's
mean that they're mentally or their well-being is sort of, let's say, stable. That's not the right word, but you get what I mean. It doesn't mean that it doesn't help the big picture.
No, because it just puts the plaster. We say plaster in England.
Plaster,
okay,
yes, not
plaster,
band-aid.
not a band-aid.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. You've been here long enough now.
I know.
Yeah. They just put a plaster over the top, don't they? And just hope it's going to be okay, and then wonder why 6 months down the road
you go back into that cycle again. Yeah,
don't they? So.
I think that's the thing, anxiety and depression.
But no teachers ever noticed that with you, really?
No.
There's only one, perhaps, that had an inkling of that.
I think because you only spend, say, we would go for a lesson, it would be an hour and a half, wouldn't it, with those teachers, and I don't think that's enough time for them to really understand. And of course the focus is, okay, how's your heel turns, how's your natural turns, how's your feather step, all that sort of thing. And actually, I'm not saying that stuff isn't important when you're competing, because you need to know it, but if I'd been made aware that I had these issues, then I could have dealt with those head on and everything else would have come with it, because actually that was the root cause of a lot of my issues.
Absolutely right.
I think that's probably true for a lot of dancers out there.
Yeah, they're all dancing with a handbrake on, aren't they, essentially, because they're all stifled in their heads. Yeah. Because they've got this perpetual feeling that they've got to be doing better all the time, they've got to be competing, they've got to keep up with people around them.
Yeah, we've constantly got to prove ourselves. I think that's the thread that I noticed through dancers, competitive dancers, is that it's constant. I've got to prove that I'm good. I've got to prove that I'm better, or that I'm going to be the best, or that sort of thing. And it's like, actually, I haven't got to prove anything.
There's a certain amount of accountability with the teacher, isn't there, as well? If you say you have a coach, your coach, there's an accountability, and I don't think necessarily, we never had anyone that wanted to take the responsibility.
That's the thing, I don't think there's many coaches out there, because I think if you have a coach, that's different to a teacher, isn't it?
And I think dancers need more coaches.
They do.
Don't they? A proper coach who sits them down and finds out exactly how they tick.
Yeah.
But the thing is, of course, that's time.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's just no time to do that.
People don't have enough time.
They're rushing around, too busy.
So you're kind of, as a competitor, you're left to your own devices, aren't you?
You are.
You've got to figure it out for yourself, and if you're lucky enough, you will.
See, we looked at stuff like that, didn't we? We bought the books, we got the mental strengthening, mental conditioning.
Yeah.
But we never looked at the illness side, let's say.
Yeah.
We just looked at how we could condition ourselves to be more positive.
I don't think I even knew I was anxious. I don't think I even knew, because I just thought I was...
Just shy.
Or worried or scared. I didn't realise it came under that bracket.
Yeah.
And then, of course, with the anxiety, I would then get depressed, because then I'd become hard on myself. I'd be like, oh, well, why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? And then that would just send me into, oh, well, I'm worthless and rubbish, and all these negative thoughts would spiral, and then I'd get very depressed. And then at some point I'd decide, okay, I've got to pick myself up and go again, and then all the anxiety would come back. So it's just like one thing feeding into another all the time.
It's difficult, isn't it?
It's like, well, it's good now that I recognise it, but for us it came too late.
Yeah, it did. But it doesn't mean to say that we can't now help people.
Well,
that's, we're in a position where we understand it better. We're happy to help people.
Yeah.
Because we didn't. Well, I suppose as well, when we've retired 11 years, haven't we? So I don't know necessarily what the competitive training is like now. Is it any different? I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I'm not sure it is really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are people more aware of it now? Are people paying attention to that?
I think
people being mindful with what they're saying to people? Because in my experience,
probably not.
as we talked about, there was a teacher that said one thing to one of my partners about their weight, and that sent them over the edge.
Yeah.
That was enough. That one little comment was enough to send them. So they were obviously susceptible already, weren't they? But they didn't know they were necessarily very young. But that one little comment was enough to make them have a significant problem, which will last with them forever.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. These things left just neglected, they take a long time to undo.
And again, no accountability.
Yeah.
Because that one errant comment, which wasn't thoughtless, there was meaning behind it. You know, this is what you need to do. You need to lose weight. You've got to be thinner.
Yeah.
It's just the way in which it was done. It was meant to be shocking to a certain degree.
And I suppose their motivation would have been, well, if I tell them that, they'll get, they'll get on it, they'll start running, they'll start doing whatever they need to do. That will put a fire in their belly to make them do it. But of course, what we don't realise, it can also have the opposite
Absolutely
effect.
right. Now, for me, because I got told those sort of things, didn't I?
And it works for you.
It works for me perfectly, but I'm a different mentality, different character.
You quite like being shouted at.
I do.
You don't mind if someone says, no, that's not good enough. You go, okay, then I'll prove you wrong.
Yeah.
But some people don't react that
Exactly.
way.
So, but how do you as a teacher identify that necessarily? Because we've got dancing qualifications. We haven't got psychology qualifications, have we?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
There's no psychology course as part of the professional exam, or even at any point in dancing, really, to understand that how the mind works. We all learn how the body works. We don't learn how the mind works, do we?
Well, even learning how the body works is minimal, isn't it?
Well, true. We did this in 1965, so that's how it's done now. Well, things have moved on a little bit now.
Yeah.
The body, actually, we understand the body works differently.
Yeah.
And of course, we're learning about the mind all the time, aren't we?
We know so little about the mind, and like you say, the psychology behind things. I mean, so going on to that, I did try and seek help. This is obviously after we finished competing. Through the normal channels, through speaking to my GP, through I even went and paid for private counselling and things like that. And to be honest, none of it really scratched the surface.
Didn't work, did it?
No, it didn't. It kind of it almost just kind of said, yeah, you're having some problems, and it was a bit like an acknowledgement of that. And then nothing more, really. It was just like, okay, try this, try that. And it's like, well, I could have read about that on the internet. So even in that regard, we're still learning so much about psychology. And for me, the route that I had to go down was on a more spiritual level. And then by doing that, I uncovered a lot of things about myself. And that's how I know so much about my, let's say, traumas and stuff. And can deal with them better, but only going through that route did it really work for me. Just going to talk about, I can't remember what it was, CBT I tried, cognitive behavioural therapy.
Yes.
Yeah. It wasn't enough. It just scratched the surface, So I think there's a lot more work to be done in that regard.
So what can we do though? What can we do? So how can the champions of tomorrow? Or even the social dancers of next week.
Well,
what can they do?
It affects
how can we help them?
as well.
How can dancing change? How can it?
That's why I hope doing things like this will help. Just people talking about it is a start, isn't it? Because I think people go, oh, that's how I feel sometimes. And then they realise that within themselves and then go, oh, maybe I need to delve a little bit deeper about that and see if I can feel better. I think the first thing is actually to acknowledge you don't have to suffer. Because I honestly, I got to the point where I thought, this is just who I am. I am an anxious person, or I am sometimes a depressed person, or I am just a bit of a miserable person. So I labelled myself that. I thought that's just part of who I am. It's my personality. And do you know what? That's a load of nonsense. So first of all, I had to acknowledge that and say, actually, I don't want to be like that. And also, I do want to be happy, and I do want to be excited about things, and I do want to live life and love life and all that sort of stuff, and I don't want to do it suffering anymore. So that I think that was a big turning point for me, was realizing that we don't have to be that way. Actually, life is supposed to be enjoyable and fun and loving and all those wonderful things that perhaps we think, oh yeah, you know, we're supposed to, but there's work and there's, you know, problems with family and there's this and that get me down. It's like, well, yeah, we all have those things, but it doesn't mean you have to live your life suffering. You know, and illnesses as well. You know, people let their illnesses, their physical ailments and things get to them. Well, a lot of that, what I've learnt now, is all to do with emotional suffering. So if you can work on the emotional suffering, then you can work on the physical as well. Not just through another tablet or, you know, things like that.
One of the best things, though, of course, is always physical activity.
Yeah. And
so getting physical, getting out into nature as well.
Yeah.
And enjoying what's around us rather than being stuck indoors. That's what happened, obviously, during the lockdown periods. So many people suffered so badly because they were stuck indoors. Yeah,
and when we were told we're only allowed an hour a day outside. I mean, for me, I just think that's nonsense, because, you know, you're outside, it's the best thing for you. And I really underestimated that, I have to say. As you know now, I go for walks and stuff, or runs and stuff regularly, just to like local area and stuff. And I absolutely love it, and I always feel so much better for it. And but you know, I'd heard it before. Yeah, go outside, go for a walk, do this, that'll make you feel better. And I thought, oh yeah, you know, but the problems are still there or whatever. And actually, it really does work. People really underestimate it. And it's such a simple thing that we can all do to help ourselves.
We can. 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day is enough, isn't it? It doesn't have to be a lot.
Yeah, just being outside.
But dancing also helps. Dancing,
because of the physical aspect.
The physical aspect, but it's not just the physical, there's the music aspect as well.
Yeah.
And then there's the social interaction aspect as well. In a competitive environment, it can be toxic.
Yeah.
Of course.
Very.
As we well know, because if you go into a competitive environment and you're surrounded by negative people.
The word is competitive.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. Even though, you know, I love competition dancing and I think it's beautiful and I think it's exciting and all that sort of thing, you have to acknowledge that the word competitive has a lot of negative connotations to it. And sometimes I wonder whether actually it's a good thing or not, because you're constantly then trying to be better than everybody else. And that doesn't just stop on the dance floor. It goes everywhere else.
Well, it was and it is for us. Well, it was. It's not is anymore. We're not bothered anymore, but it was for us, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And you really struggled with that.
Yeah.
That's what you struggled with.
Because I didn't think I was good enough.
Well, true. Yeah. I mean, you came from, you know, the back streets of Townsville, you know, with, you know, bales of hay and the...
Bales of hay.
Well, what's that thing called? What's it called? What's that thing called when you see it?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You know, you see in these films where the tumbleweed going through the streets.
There was no tumble.
Yeah, well, you did live in a place called Townsville, which does sound made up. It doesn't sound real, does it? It doesn't sound real. As you came from there with posters on your wall of dancers, famous dancers doing, you know, the best in the world.
People I held up really high.
And then you come to England, and then you're standing next to them on the dance floor in a practice session.
Yeah, so I was very stifled. I was scared.
And I could not get my head around that at all.
But you'd grown up around them.
I had grown up around them, but it was for me it was so difficult because I'm standing there and I want to, if we're doing a foxtrot, I remember vividly I'm standing next to William Pino one year. Obviously we weren't together. And I'm stood next to William Pino and I want to outdrive him in the feather step. I think I'm going to get him today. I'm going to get him today. He's winning or second. I'm going to outdrive him. And that's the nature of me. That's how I overcome. Well, I didn't have any fears.
But that's quite a healthy.
But I was an arrogant sod at times. I was awful, actually.
Yeah, and that can be a little bit toxic, can't it?
Yeah. And I learnt to deal with that. And I learnt that to become confidence rather than arrogance. And I didn't even have any reason to be arrogant. It's not like I was winning stuff.
No.
This is before I'd won anything.
There was something in you that just gave you an inner confidence.
Yeah, and I wanted to beat everybody. I wanted to be the best.
Yeah.
Which helped in a
and that's, you know, it's, I'm not saying being competitive and wanting to be better than other people is necessarily a bad thing, but it's just you've got to be careful where that stops and realise that it is just dancing. you know.
One of the things that we could...
I think a healthier attitude is think, well, I want to better myself. I want to do the best I can. I want to, you know, see what I can draw out of myself. I think that's a good, healthy, competitive spirit.
One of the things that we can take from it now is that we should have enjoyed it more.
Absolutely. God, yeah. If I could do it again, I would just enjoy myself and I wouldn't care about what other people thought of me, whether I was good enough, or where we came results-wise. Because for me, the results were a bit of a slap in the face all the time, kind of saying to me, you're not good enough, you're not good enough.
Well, in some respects, we weren't good enough, though.
Yeah, and I agree with that.
So we needed to be better in some respects.
But I needed to stop looking for the validation.
We needed to stop having lessons.
Well, what do you mean having lessons?
Well, the lessons was the problem. Because you get all the information and you're trying to please the people you're having lessons for, rather than pleasing yourself.
Yeah.
So the attitude that you have when you go into a lesson needs to be
again,
different.
I think that just comes down to your own consciousness, your own awareness, and it's great to go and get the information, but you then need to balance it out with, okay, I've got that information, but how do I want to dance? And does it feel good to me? And does it make me feel free and expressive? Because ultimately, I think for me, the best dancers are the ones that aren't looking for that validation. They're just expressing themselves.
And they're the ones that probably, without necessarily realising it, have dealt with any mental problems they've had
Possibly.
or mental insecurities.
Yeah.
And have got to grips with that. And perhaps they've got the right coach behind them that has allowed them to develop this mental strength or understand how their mind works to allow them to perform at their best.
Yeah. Yeah, some people have the right influence in their lives, you know, and that could be a parent. It could be a parent who knows, you know, how to instill that grounding. But, you know, my parents weren't competitive people. So they honestly, I'm not blaming them at all, but I don't think they would have known what was wrong with me.
Yeah, but you weren't with them anyway.
Not over here,
you know,
as a child.
But even you moved away at 18, so, you know, so the years when you're forming your own, becoming your own new adult, they weren't around anyway, so they weren't influencing you, were they?
No.
Perhaps one of the reasons why you moved away.
I think why I moved away was because I wanted to get out of where I was, because there was this
tumbleweed.
I felt there was nothing there for me anymore, and you know, as a kid, I always thought, right, I want to dance, and that's all I wanted to do. Didn't really care about anything else.
See, as a child though, you weren't thinking, I've got to win, were you? You were thinking, I want to dance.
Yeah.
So, and me the same actually.
Yeah.
There was never in my head as a child, I want to win. It was, I want to dance.
Yeah.
And that's what's great with some social dancers, of course, because they come in, they just want to dance. That's all they want to do.
And they can do that without the worry of, am I going to win today, or am I going to get the next round?
So it's good. It's good for them.
Yeah.
And that's why it's good for people who also have little stressful jobs and that sort of thing, or deal with stressful environments. They can go and they can just dance and express themselves and have a bit of fun.
Because I think social dancers also need to be careful. A lot of them have insecurities still, and then they also worry about what other people think of them and all that sort of stuff. And I think what we can say for sure is that honestly, you don't need to worry about it.
I don't think many people really care.
Exactly.
That's the thing. So if you're worried about something, or what am I going to look like at this social dance, or I can only get round the floor with
everybody else
basic.
is better than me, or whatever, you know, and it really doesn't matter, because they all started somewhere.
They did. Everyone started. And the people that do say anything or look at you in a funny way, they probably won't come again, because we won't let them. Because generally speaking,
you're talking about judgment.
Yeah, there are some dancers, of course, that we have that are a bit judgy.
Yeah, but do you know what? Judgment, when you're judging someone else, you're only ever judging yourself, because what you see in someone that you don't like is also in yourself. So that's something that I learned.
That's your spiritual stuff coming in.
That's something that I learned off the back of somebody else, which obviously we'll talk about another time, not for now. But judgment's a really interesting thing. When you're judging others, always remember you're also judging yourself.
Of course, when you're judging a competition, that's a bit different.
Yeah.
You know, that's all.
Well, you're putting yourself out there to be judged, aren't you?
Yeah.
And again, that's
but I think this is where the problem comes, because you're putting yourself in a position to be judged.
Yeah. Do you know what?
And that's the wrong mindset.
It's in that, when you put it that way though, it's utter madness, isn't it? It is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It is utter madness when you think about it. That's why you have to kind of, even though we're entering competitions, erase that word and erase the word judge. Because ultimately, all you really want to do, going back to when we were kids, all we really want to do is dance and express ourselves. Why? Because it's enjoyable. Moving your body like that is enjoyable. And that all comes, I know now why that's so powerful, is because it's all about energy. When you don't move your body, you're full of stagnant energy. And that stagnant energy sits in your body and creates illness, emotional, mental problems, things like that, you know, and we need to move our bodies. And if you're doing it to music especially, well, then that just fills your soul up with such good feelings, you know. So go out there and just dance and don't worry about the word competition or what the judges are thinking.
Do you know what people should do, Kelly? They should dance more and worry less.
Yeah, well, that's why we have that slogan.
Yeah,
don't we? Yeah.
Dance more, worry
But
less.
actually, when we chose that, we didn't know.
We weren't at this stage, were we?
No, not at all. It was just I just thought it sounded good. I thought, oh, that sounds good. Let's use that. That's it, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, now it makes total sense, doesn't it?
I still always find it very difficult with the mental health side of stuff, because I've experienced some stuff, firsthand, where someone I'm close to has experienced these problems, significant problems.
Yeah.
And I've experienced it a little bit myself in the lockdown period as well.
Yeah.
Where I had a little bit of a funny turn, didn't I, for a bit. But in a competitive side, I find it really difficult.
Because you're quite mentally strong in
Yeah.
that respect, yeah.
Because I just want to be the best that I can, and I'm not
Yeah.
worried about anyone else, or no one intimidates me
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
So then it's very difficult when you've got someone who is the
The
opposite.
complete opposite.
Yeah. The only person I suppose that did talk about this was Richard Glee with us a little bit, wasn't it? He identified that I was in a certain
Too strong-minded.
and you were
perhaps.
softer, so we had to try and align ourselves.
Yeah.
And the only way
Yeah.
that worked was in a competitive sense. I had to bring my energy level down to
And I
allow you
had
to
to
bring your
bring
energy
mine
level up.
Yeah.
Because in a comp, if things were going a bit dodgy, I'd literally pick you up.
Literally take over, wouldn't you?
Literally take over, pick you up and carry you around the floor. And that made it worse, of course, because then you'd introvert
I'd retreat.
more.
Yeah, I'd retreat, yeah. And then I wouldn't dance very well at all.
But I'm getting better with understanding and being aware of these things. It's definitely something I'm more aware of now that you've done the work that you've done on yourself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
See, I would always just say, oh, come on, sort yourself out.
Yeah.
Come on, do it again. Just be positive.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's really easy to say to people, just be positive. And when you say that to someone who's in that place, it doesn't get received. It doesn't hit home enough, you know. So the best thing is you've got to delve into yourself and be honest with yourself as well. I think that's really important, because unless you're really honest with yourself, you'll never find those issues that you're feeling. You'll just say, oh, well, I'm feeling a bit down. But, well, okay, then why are you feeling a bit down?
Normally
Normally there'll be something that has made you feel that way.
Yeah, normally it's a trigger. Like I said, the one comment about losing weight for someone, that was a trigger. So
yeah, exactly.
And that can put people into a spiral of depression and all sorts of things, and then potentially life-threatening things, life-threatening situations. Because I've listened to things on radio and things as well, and sportsmen. You know, there are many sportsmen and even celebrities as well that go through bouts of severe depression, and it can be something as simple as an injury, you know, or not getting a certain job or something that you were hoping to get. Yeah. And then that sends you into a downward spiral. And too many people say, oh, how can you be depressed with the life that you've got? How can you be down with the life that you've got? It doesn't matter, because it's not visual, because you can't actually see it. People don't think it's real. Yeah. And that's the trouble. If you've got a broken leg,
I can see
and
it.
it's at 90 degrees to your knee.
Don't say things like that, they're cringe.
And you can say, oh, I've got a bit of a bad leg today, a bit of a dodgy leg. You wouldn't say, oh, it's all right, just dance it off. You know, you can run that off. Yeah. No, your leg's at 90 degrees, it's not going to happen. It's very visual, very obvious. Oh, you need some help. Yeah. But when you've got a mental
but with
issue, then you can't. There's no visual triggers necessarily, because people put on a brave face, don't they? They think, I've got to be this person, I've got to put on this mask to integrate myself into society. Yeah. Or they completely retreat and you never see them again.
Become quite isolated.
Become a recluse, and then it gets worse.
Yeah. Well, that's why obviously dancing does help with that, because doing a little bit of dancing when you are in a bit of a slump, any kind of movement really, and that's why people, when they come, they will always feel a little bit better when they leave, because they've done something.
Unless they've done it really wrong and I've told them they've done heel leads everywhere.
They might feel worse, yeah. No.
But it's the attitude. If you come in with the attitude that you want to be better, then obviously you've got to understand that there's things you've got to work on. But if you come in with the attitude, I just want to have a laugh. I'm not worried.
Does. It depends on your intention.
I'm not stressed. And then, of course, it's very easy. I've got students, of course, that do come in and they want to be better. So they have to, and they want to. They're striving for something. They're going for a medal test or a competition or something. So there's work you've got to do in the nicest possible way. You've got sometimes to be quite strong.
Yeah.
There are other people that I teach that couldn't care less.
Yeah, you were going to swear.
Yeah, I was going to swear. There's no swearing on this. They couldn't care less. So it doesn't matter. So their lessons are always positive. They're always relaxed. They're always a bit of a laugh. Always fun.
Yeah.
And they always leave with a smile on their face.
Yeah, and that's absolutely okay. I think for dancing, if you want to do it as a hobby, a lot of people worry, but I'm not going to be any good at it. When do you need permission to be good at it to do it?
Well, you don't, do you?
You don't. You really don't. To do anything. You might think, okay, I want to paint because I like to paint and I like to get a bit messy and all that sort of stuff. Doesn't mean that the paintings have to be any good. And a lot of people avoid doing something because they think, I'm not going to be good at it. And it's like, you don't have to be. You don't have to be good at dancing to come to our classes. You just got to enjoy it.
Yeah.
You know, and if you do want to get better at it, well, then you have to put in a bit of work. But
well, it's the same with anything, of course. You want to get good at something or efficient, because obviously we're talking about movement, so movement needs to be efficient. Then, you've got to work hard to a certain degree. But we're not fussed if you're not bothered.
No, exactly. And that's the thing. Dancing is good for everyone in that respect, because you can come if you just want to have fun. You can come if you just want to push yourself a little bit and kind of get yourself out of your comfort zone, which is a really good thing to do. And then if you really want to push that even further and become a competitor or something like that, well, then you can as well.
And it's never too late.
Yeah.
As well, is it never too late?
Yeah, that's where the Pro-Am scene has become really good for that, hasn't it?
We'll have another chat about that another time, I think.
Got a little...
We've got stuff on your chin.
Got a little floating...
Don't touch the microphone.
I think it's a cat hair.
Cat hair?
Yeah, just...
I don't even go anywhere near her.
Just brush the...
No, maybe it's a long hair that I haven't shaved.
No, it is. It's floating. There we go.
Have I got it?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Wispy little white one.
There you go.
Yeah, little one.
I had to tell you because it was annoying me. Yeah. I forget where we were now.
I think we've probably done enough.
You think so?
I think we've waffled on enough, haven't we?
Yeah. So there you go. Dancing and mental health.
Just the tip of the iceberg, really.
It is really. It's a subject you could delve into and talk about for hours on end, I'm sure.
I'm sure if we had proper degrees in this sort of stuff, we could talk for weeks.
Yeah, but you know, even just speaking from our own experiences, it might help someone. You know, on any level of dancer. You know, obviously we come at it from the competitive point of view, but because we interact so much with people who just do it socially and for fun and stuff, we can see how it affects. I think a good thing when you start learning to dance is that you realise you need to get a little bit uncomfortable, you know, and...
Well, this is the problem. Most people are too comfortable, aren't they? Too comfortable in their lives.
Well, Netflix is really comfortable.
Well, especially on our sofa.
Yeah. You know.
In front of the fire. It's lovely, isn't it? So, to change is not the most comfortable of things. Yeah. And some people really don't like it. And you've got to change not just your physical self, it's your mental side.
Mental,
and that's tough. It's not easy. It's a bit of a job.
Yeah. Because we hold ourselves back so much from doing things because of that. I used to do that. I used to be... You know, whenever we'd do stamina practice, I'd be like, I don't want to do this. Because it's hard work.
I didn't want to either.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd much rather have just gone to the pub at the time and gone and had a kebab. You know, much rather.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't...
but if you want to...
But if you want to get better, you've got to do it.
Yeah.
And that was where my mental strength put me through it. I thought, I can do this because I want to do this. And now I miss it terribly.
Yeah, I do too.
I miss it terribly. I miss that pain terribly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not so much the pain.
It's the euphoria afterwards.
It is that, because you do feel so much better and proud of yourself afterwards, because you know it's difficult and you know you have to push yourself, and when you accomplish that, you think, bloody hell, I did that.
Yeah. I miss sitting in a puddle of my own sweat.
Yeah.
on a plastic chair in an unair-conditioned studio in Australia.
It was literally a puddle, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. With a plastic chair just collected. Yeah. I don't think I've ever sweated as much. I have actually. I sweated just about the same in Barcelona with Hillary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ruined a suit.
That's right.
Yeah. The air conditioning wasn't
to
up
get
to
a new
much.
one after that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was fun.
Yeah.
Not the same sort of fun.
No.
Yeah.
But it's amazing what the human body can achieve, isn't it? When you think about it, like obviously because we've tried to push our bodies, sometimes to their detriment, but you know, you can always do so much more than you think you can. Yeah. That was a big thing for me from competing days, was like, gosh, yeah, I can do this. I used to talk myself out of it, but when I did it, it was like, actually, I can do it. Now I know that if I want to get really fit, I can. It's just a choice, isn't it?
We're going to, aren't we?
Yeah, we are going to.
Yeah,
but you just make a decision. Because it is really easy to go, oh, yeah, that shows.
Well, it depends. It depends what people want out of their lives, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because people get too comfortable, as we said. They get too comfortable. And it's hard then to change.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. But even if it's not pushing your body, like some people will avoid perhaps going to that dance class because they think, oh well, I don't want to feel embarrassed, or you know, anything like that.
Everyone will look at me. I don't know anyone.
Yeah.
I haven't got anyone to dance with.
Yeah, it's all these fears, isn't it? And anxieties.
There's no worries.
Yeah.
You've got no worries at all. We're all lovely. Most of us.
Yeah, we're all right.
Most of us.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's enough.
Okay.
That's enough. That was not bad, was it?
I think so.
It was quite good.
First one.
First one.
Yeah.
Yeah, first one of maybe one. One of one.
People might say, please stop talking.
They might do. All right, guys, that's enough for now.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks for talking to me.
You're welcome.